Okay, I'm going to do a video here to explain to you very simply why TRT is an advantage over natural production. Now you should be able to look at this little graph that I just literally drew in like a minute. When you inject testosterone, let's say you inject 100 milligrams, boom, we go all the way up to 1,000 here, and then, we have this half-life as it breaks down in your body, okay? And so then here we are at day 7 and you're at 500. This is all hypothetical, but I'm sure people are using much higher doses, like 2,000 is probably their peak, and they're 1,000 at their valley because they get their blood work done on day 7, so it's come down from wherever it was. But we're assuming people are actually following Endocrine Society guidelines here, so they're using 100 milligrams per week. If you have a good endocrinologist, or they're doing 200 milligrams every 14 days. Either way, if you do 200 milligrams every 14 days, now we're way up here off the chart at 2,000, and it's coming down, and this is way out, so we're still coming down to around 500 at day 14. In this case, we're going to do 1 week. Now, you see, I've kind of tried to shade this like lightly, because obviously it would be a mess if I tried to shade it entirely. This is what we call area under the curve. You see all this? That's all of that is the testosterone that is circulating in someone's system when they inject testosterone. However, this one here, assuming that we're comparing apples to apples, so a natural level of 500, look at the difference here. This person with a natural level of 500 hits a peak of 500, and then it comes down during the day, and then the next morning they get tested again, it's 500, it comes down. The next morning it's 500. Right? Next morning it's 500. So whenever you are producing testosterone endogenously, what happens is it goes up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down, because it is pulsatile, right? Your body produces it in pulsations. And so when you shade this under the curve, right, and we were to color all that in, there's much less area under this with going up and down than there is with this. And even if you did have some amazing physiology where you're just 500 all the time and it didn't fluctuate from day to day, you can see this area down here is much less than whenever you include this triangle up here and have more area. So therefore, TRT is in fact, yes, it is enhancing. It is more than just being, physiological and normal. Like, does it give people an advantage over people who are producing testosterone endogenously? Yes, undoubtedly, because you can see that there's this much testosterone in your system. So at the peak of the injection, it may be at 1,000, and then it comes down to 500 at the valley, right? And then they do their next injection, they're back up at 1,000 again, and then it comes back down again. Whereas the person who is producing their testosterone endogenously has this going on. Not to mention, and here's another huge advantage, if this guy overtrains and beats the shit out of himself, suddenly his little peaks start getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So now he's at 400, okay? But this guy over here, he can overtrain and it won't change because he's taking his testosterone exogenously. So even when he overtrains, it doesn't matter. It's not impacting his pituitary gland with luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. It's not changing his testosterone level. Overtraining or not, he's still at 1,000 every week when he injects, and then at 500 at his valley, because he's getting it exogenously. So when you produce it endogenously, suddenly all these other things matter. Like, you need to make sure that you're sleeping. You need to make sure that your training is on point. This guy over here, this guy can not sleep. It doesn't matter. He'll still be at 1,000 when he injects. This guy can undereat. He can diet harder and still have a testosterone level that is going to stay in this range here. This guy down here can't play that game. That's why you see these natural bodybuilders, right? Natural bodybuilders, we have to train smarter. We have to be aware of how much are we eating. We need to diet more slowly and more carefully. Try to diet on as many calories as you possibly can. Get as much sleep as you possibly can. Watch your training load, okay? whenever you're producing testosterone endogenously, this can easily come down. I mean, there are guys who are hypogonadal when they step on stage. Why? Because they've been dieting, they've been training really hard, and obviously, you guys probably already know this, whenever you don't eat enough and you're training really hard, your sleep goes to shit. Like, you just don't sleep well. So now you're not sleeping well, now you're not eating, and you're training really hard. These are no longer hitting these peaks like this. Now they're like way down here, okay? So is TRT, even an actual TRT dose where someone is at, you know, say 500 as their valley, is that an advantage over being natural? Yes, in fact it is.